Alright, I just thought I'd really quickly, seeing as we're coming to the end of our cider season here in New Zealand, or at least we are here in Orchard Farm, I thought I would just share my quick, easy, primitive way of making delicious cider at home. So I'm going to show you a few things that I use. It's nothing that breaks the bank. You don't have to buy a $300 bloody apple press. You don't have to buy or make yourself a crusher. The stuff you've got at home does just fine, and I'll show you. We here at Orchard Farm have got 8 apple trees. They grow a variety of apples. Most of them are for eating. Had a bit of a storm and lost one recently. Hopefully I managed to resurrect it, but of those 8 apple varieties, 3 of them are dedicated cider apples, and that's Kingston Black, Yellington Mill, and Slack McGirdle. And I also have a crab apple, and the definition of a crab apple is that an apple grown from a seed does not throw true representation of the variety of apple that it came from. This is how we get new varieties of apples. It's also really annoying for people who want to grow their own apples. You know, you get a lovely Royal Gala, for example, that you like, you plant the Royal Gala seeds and up pops something that's not a Royal Gala. That could be good, it could be bad. It is what it is. So that's why apples and pears are grafted. We also make Perry cider, or just, it should be called just Perry, but most people get confused with that. Pear cider, Perry cider. I think it's also been called Baby Sham in the past. Perry is made from pears, simple as. However, I have yet to find any dedicated pear cider pears in the country. I'm always looking out for them. If I one day hopefully will get some, and I'll be able to take some cuttings and graft them onto some rootstock, and I'll have my own pear cider trees. But at the moment what we use is what we got. We've got 10 pear trees on the property, but the dominant variety of pear we grow is Winter Nellis, which is not a cider making pear, but you know, we get a decent amount of juice out of it, so we ferment it. And you use what you got. If you can't sell the fruit, you juice it, you make cider, the kids eat and drink the juice. The pulp gets used in compost, worm farms, or gets fed to the chickens or the sheep. So, you know, nothing gets wasted. That's the whole philosophy. So anyway, I'll run you through what I've got. Okay, so this is the Perry. As you can see there, it's a demijohn full of Perry. And walk over, excuse the mess. Sorry, we're really busy. A medieval carnival coming up this weekend. That is 30 litres of cider. Ignore the thing next to it, that's mead. I harvested my honey just recently and the cappings got turned into mead. How do we do this? Well, first of all, we have got this device here. This is just a pasta cooker, simple as. I have just put a hole in it, welded a spout to that hole, the pasta cooker goes inside. We grate up the apples, obviously using a food processor, and then I freeze them, usually for 2 to 3 days. Then I thaw them out, I put them into there, put this wooden press on top, coated in beeswax so it doesn't taint any fruit, and then I put the weights on top. There's weights there, go on top. Okay, from there it's pretty simple, I think you can work it out. The weight slowly crushes the fruit, releases the juice, collects in the bowl underneath, as you could see. You could run it straight into the demijohn if you wish to, I guess. It just works better for me to get it into a bowl. And what I usually do is I fill up soft drink containers with it and put them in the freezer until I've got enough to make a batch of mead. I have currently got some left in because, as you saw that big barrel, I'm going to have to rack that at some stage, which means I'm going to lose 2 or 3 litres off the bottom of that when I take out the sediments, and so I want to put that back in, reduce the airspace, of course, which reduces the chance of something going wrong, you know, because the CO2 will fill that airspace and keep the mead, not mead, sorry, that's the other one, keep the cider fresh. And I can probably rack cider 2 or 3 times, depending on how I feel. And I will try and top it up every time. So I have got, you know, an extra batch of cider apple juice ready to go in the freezer for these occasions. Just a quick note from what I have been told. What I make is scrumpy and not actually technically cider. I've been told the difference is that cider apples were picked, whereas scrumpy apples were picked up off the ground. So I wait for my apples to fall and I go and gather them every morning and do them in small batches. Wait till I've got 10 kilos or so and then do that 10 kilo batch and carry on constantly doing that. Something to do with the history of who owned the apples. On the tree, it was owned by the landlords. On the ground, it was considered to be free-for-all for common folk to just come pick it up. And this is also why Scrumpy was perhaps more of a common man's drink. I personally think it's got a better flavour than cider, personally. There's a lot of cider in New Zealand that's just made from Granny Smiths and Royal Galas and Pacific Rose and that sort of. They're not cider apples. They don't have the balance of tannins and acids in them that will make it a good cider. I'm using dedicated apples that, on the most part, there are some odd apples that I throw in there, but for the most part, I'm using dedicated cider apples to make these, and I'm making Scrumpy, which has always been more alcoholic than cider. I think mainly because the apple, when it falls off, is as ripe as it's ever going to get. It's so full of sugar compared to the apples on the tree. So that's just my brief little how to do it. You can see it's cheap. It works. It makes good quality cider. Have a go. You can use a ship from the supermarket. You can buy juice. Be careful if you do buy juice that you don't get stuff with preservative in it. I've heard of people doing that, buying apple juice with preservative in it, and they're wondering why it won't ferment. Depending on the kind of preservative they used, obviously, so do your research on that. Personally, I think it's rather an expensive way to make it, and again, you're up against the fact that what they juiced was probably just Royal Galas or something like that don't have the flavours that you're going to want out of your ciders. So how do you guys do it? That's my question. I'd like to know, how have you set up yourself if you make cider, or any kind of country wine, basically. But I mean, I'm particularly looking at cider at the moment. I might do a quick one on how I make mead, but mead is so ridiculously simple. I think it's a good cause that it was probably the first alcoholic drink ever made in the universe, because it is ridiculously simple. But, how do you do it? I'm always interested in tips and tricks and what works in your country or doesn't work in your country, or what I could try. Give me a bell and let me know in the comments below. Feel free to check out Orchard Farm on Facebook. I'll put a link in the description, and catch you guys later. Have an excellent day.